Da da da.
And now we're live. Yes. Hi, everybody. Joe Chaffee and Joe Rayo here on the Joe and Joe Weather Show. Sorry, Joe, I couldn't answer because I was in the middle of getting us all hooked up here. But
And there you are.
and there we are, and there I am again. So we have the audio replay. Thank you so much. You got that? I was in the middle of. Oh, good God! Can you turn that off already?
I did.
Okay. So
We're on a 7-second delay, folks.
yes, we are. So hope everybody had a nice day. It was another one of those days where we had to deal with the smoky haze in the air, but at least we had a little bit of sun. But I have to tell you, Mr. Rayo, Anthony Orr, a resident hurricane statistician, pointed out to me earlier that um, Sally became the another storm this year where it strengthened, where the wind actually strengthened by at least 15 miles an hour or more on the maximum wind inside 24 hours before landfall. Last night, right after we're done, I noticed the recon, the pressure had dropped about a dozen millibars, and all of a sudden an eye developed. So this Sally wound up strengthening to a Category 2 uh, right just within miles of hitting land. It was amazing.
It is amazing, and we've been saying this all summer that once it gets within range of the coastal plain, either of Louisiana or Alabama, Mississippi, the waters, the very warm waters of the Gulf, just seem to energize these things at the last minute. And as you mentioned, this is yet another example.
The thing is, this one was a little different, if only because of the fact that it was basically stalled for 48 hours, and usually when it's sitting there for that long, you get a bit of upwelling. Now, granted, the Gulf of Mexico water is very warm. You're talking about 90-degree ocean, 90-degree water temperatures there. So if you upwell it, what do you drop it down to? 85, 83?
Right,
It's still
right.
enough to cause it to strengthen. But apparently, the upwelling was not enough, and the proximity to land was not enough to keep it from getting a bit stronger. I saw gusts over 100 last night, Pensacola Naval Air Station. Of course, the buoys out there, the Apache buoy and the Chevron buoy were blowing away for 2 days. But even some land stations had some rather wicked wind gusts. And then now let's look. I want to start with this, Joe, because it doesn't happen too often. But being that it's 2020, how about let's have a Medicane? And
Right.
I've got the satellite view here, and I've circled it. That's actually got a name, Lanos. And
Really?
yeah, they the Met office from Athens in Greece has given it a name, Medicane Lanos. And I didn't see. Let me see if it's they said anything about what they're saying with regards to winds with this. Hang on one second. Uh, oh, fine. It's written in a language I can't understand. I gotta translate
It,
this.
it's all Greek to you, Joe.
Yes, it is. Thank you. So I was hoping you would resist this. Okay, so apparently Um, tropical cyclone. Now I used to Google the translator on Google, so that always helps. Tropical cyclone in the Mediterranean Sea, Medicane Lanos, and uh, the story says a Medicane has been formed. Has been formed. I'm reading word for word here. On the day of September 16th, we have a new case of a tropical cyclone in the Mediterranean Sea. The National Observatory of Athens
Uh-huh.
(parentheses Greece) considers that the low pressure system that has been swarming for days in the Mediterranean has become a tropical cyclone, a Medicane, Medican, and they gave it the name Lanos, Lanos, and I'm just they don't. There's no. I'd have to dig around, but they don't have a formal advisory that I saw, like Miami does, which makes it a whole lot easier to figure out. But if you look to the right of I'm sorry, to the left of that, there's a rather large non-tropical storm. This is a big cutoff low that's sitting off the coast of Portugal, between Portugal and the Azores. And you can't really see it in the upper left, but Paulette is going to be coming into the scene here and then come to a grinding halt because of that particular storm that's east of Portugal, and higher pressures that are building from France, Germany, and England and Ireland back westward. So you learn something new every day here on the Joe and Joe Weather Show.
And speaking of Paulette, today was the last day, or at least at 5 o'clock was the last advisory, because they now consider Paulette just a big old extra tropical storm. It may have the potency of a strong tropical storm or hurricane, but it no longer has tropical characteristics. So the National Hurricane Center, also known, by the way, Joe, as the Tropical Prediction Center, said, well, it's out of our hands now. It's not tropical anymore. And I guess they hand it off to the folks who do the ocean services forecast for.
Right, the non-tropical prediction center.
Yes.
So here's just real quick. I brought up the GFS so we could take a look at this Medicane here that is south of Sicily and southernmost Italy, moving northeastward. That's a tight little 989, 990-ish low that winds up heading for Greece, and then actually drops southward and moves down into Egypt and dissipates. So
Wow.
very interesting to see this, because we don't really pay all that much attention to the weather unless we get a storm like this. But there's your big high that's up to the north, and your storm that's off of Portugal, non-tropical, that moves inland. But you don't really see Paulette in here, because that's going to be dropping southward and weakening anyhow. But very, very interesting indeed, with having a tropical storm in the Mediterranean. Next, we're going to have a tropical storm up in the Arctic. That'll be the next. That'll be the next thing. It'll find a way.
It probably will in this particular year, but I don't know if I'm getting ahead of myself. But some of the models you pointed out the icons solution for Teddy.
Yes, and now the European too, by the way.
The European is starting to do it.
Yes, we're going to cover that. I'm sorry, I just realized I didn't have the map on the screen. So just to show you the GFS with the Medicane here with Lanos, and then we'll move on to Sally and Teddy and Bob and Carol and Ted and Alice, or anything else that's out there.
Yes, and alpha and beta too.
Alpha, beta, gamma. But here is. Let me bring this up to the top so you folks can see. But there it is. It's that low. That low that is east that is to the east of Sicily and east southeast of southernmost Italy, and then runs into the coast, just getting ready to go into Greece along the coast, and then it drops southward toward Egypt, and then just dissipates. So again, very, very interesting indeed. So we're going to come back to all of this. I'm going to set it up. I'll put up the map of the tropics here so we can come back to this, and we'll be looking at Teddy and everything else. But first things first, Joe. Sally is now finally inland, so the big story ahead is going to be heavy rains through much of the southeast. I don't think that we're going to see the northern fringe of that rain get here. It might get, for a brief time, it might touch southern New Jersey, but for the most part, we're going to be eastern Pennsylvania to southern New England. The cold front that's coming through is going to suppress everything, and maybe we get a shower from that tomorrow night, and that's the only rain we're going to see for a while.
Yep. And for us, how much rain could we possibly get from that cold frontal passage? I'm thinking less than 2/10 of an inch.
Oh, it might even be less than a tenth. It might not. Most places may wind up not seeing anything.
Well, sometimes you look at tropical moisture, it's just literally off to our south. And sometimes you think, well, maybe a little bit of that will eke in or squeak in here.
Right.
And, make it a little bit heavier, or surprise us with a little bit more of a rainfall total. But you're right. It doesn't look like we're going to see very much out of whatever we get from that front late tomorrow night, early Friday. And then dry weather, it looks like, right on through. well, right on through into the middle of next week.
Well, as long as nothing complicates it next week with whatever the other models are doing with one thing or another, which we'll get to. I have the digital forecast, Joe. They actually give Montauk the third of an inch of rain, and they've got a .02 for New York City and a .01 for you. And then you head down to coastal New Jersey, 3/10 in just north of Atlantic City, and 2 or 3 tenths down when you get into northern parts of central Delaware. But then you start to go with the southern Delaware and points further south, and that's when you start to get into the 1 and 2 inch rainfalls, and the 4, 5, and 6 inch rainfalls, and even some 7 and 8 inch rainfalls from southeast Georgia northeastward into western South Carolina, western North Carolina, and then it starts to tail off a bit as you head northeast there into southern Virginia. The flash flood watches that are up now, by the way, from Alabama right up into southern Virginia for these rains that are going to be moving up during the next 36 to 48 hours. But we're in the clear, and I think they got their frost. I think that's a frost advisory up for northern Maine. That is it's a freeze watch that's up in the northern half of Maine, Joe. Signs of things to come. And
Gee, Joe, freeze watch, right?
yes,
And then maybe less than a week later, hurricane or tropical
yeah,
storm.
I know it has to stop. It just has to stop.
Yes.
It's these ridiculous extremes. Now that you bring that up, I haven't even looked at Denver lately to see if they've gotten back above 90. They do have fog issues in eastern Colorado. I just want to see what's going on, just for laughs. Since they went from 100 to 25, where have they gotten back to? 73. So not too shabby. And of course, they've got the haze that they've been dealing with for quite a while. But the satellite, Joe, once again, the smoke is everywhere. It's just about everywhere from coast to coast. It's that milky white. Oh, he's sharing a screen here. Hold on.
I was
Rayo's
just
got a
testing.
screen. Hold on.
I was testing this, Joe.
It works.
It does work.
It works. You got the screen is available for everyone to see. It is so exciting. Let me bring this up to the front, and you can go ahead and explain what you
Well,
got.
this is the European, and most people who look at the European do not get a chance to see the precipitation map associated with the European. But I have access to it, and I figured, well, why not? Especially since, again, we're alluding to something most unusual concerning Teddy for next week. So I'm moving things forward here. This is the 48-hour progress.
All right, hang on 1 second, because for some reason you're sharing a shot, and it's just like a still frame. So you just moved it.
Yeah, well, it's not a loop.
No, I understand that, but
Yeah.
I'm not on the screen here. The folks are only seeing that first shot that you put up, and it's not moving. So I'm not sure why that is. Let me check here. I have you say that you can share. Let's see, multiple participants can share simultaneously. Isn't it great, folks? How technically diverse Joe and I are. It's just so exciting.
Yeah.
Let me try something else. Hold on. I'm going to try something else here. No, that didn't work. And that didn't work. And okay. And let's see. Nope. I can't seem to do it, Joe. We got to figure this out on another time.
All right.
So sorry about that. But
just stop sharing.
So you stop sharing. Okay. Yeah. Very good.
I'm stopping the share.
All right. And then I have to find us, but I'll do that later. Okay. So we'll so there's the satellite. As I said, just smoke everywhere from coast to coast. That's all we got is that milky haze that's up there in the sky, and no sign of it going away anytime soon.
Well,
unless that big high could do something.
I what I think is going to happen, in spite of the fact that on Friday, at that big high moving in, and we're probably going to see, I think, Friday afternoon, Joe, some rather strong and gusty northerly or maybe northeasterly winds. We may even see wind gusts upwards to 20 and 30 miles an hour. Combine that with temperatures in the 60s, it's going to feel on Friday afternoon like it's only in the 50s, I think, with that wind. Now, those are the surface winds, but in order to control the smoke situation, we have to look aloft, up 5 miles, 10, 15 miles above us. I think the upper level winds are going to gradually, progressively turn more out of a north or northwest direction over the weekend, especially so late on Saturday night and Sunday, so that by Sunday, while I don't think we may be completely done with the smoke, it will have thinned out considerably so that we'll have more of a blue sky. Yeah, I don't know how long it's going to last because I think the upper level winds are going to start turning back into the west and transporting more of that schmutz our way for early next week. But I do think that we are going to see some semblance of an improvement in the sky conditions during the upcoming weekend.
Well, we can only hope because it's kind of annoying to have all this mess going on the way things are. I really was out this morning up by the beach, and it was, just the way the milkiness in the sky was so evident. Although it wasn't completely hazy. There was enough there. The sun was trying, but as we went through the afternoon, and now of course with the low sun angle, the amount of sunlight that's actually making it down to the ground is it almost feels like it's December in terms of how it looks outside.
Right. The sun now is, well, it'll be at the equinox this coming Tuesday. And so it's about, in terms of in terms of degrees, it's about only 50 degrees high in the sky. Your clenched fist held at arm's length is equivalent to roughly 10 degrees. So the sun at, let's say, 1 o'clock in the afternoon is roughly about 5 fists up from the horizon. And if you remember back to the solstice on June 21st, then the sun was more than 70 degrees high or more than 7 fists up. So we've lost 2 fists, Joe, over the last 90 days in terms of the altitude of the sun, and it continues to lower as we progress toward
That's a lot.
the winter
That's a
solstice.
lot.
Yeah, when at the winter solstice, the sun is only about 27 degrees high in the southern sky, so it's less than 3 fists up from the horizon at noontime on December 21st or 22nd. And again, on the 21st of June, 7 fists up, and now we're like at the midpoint here between the high and the low at about 5 fists or 50 degrees up.
All right. I got. Let's move on with Sally. We've got the radar. I've got the southeast radar view here, and it's all inland. So the good news here, at least, is that there are some bands of rain going on across the Florida Panhandle, but that steady, unrelenting rain of the last 2 days from coastal Alabama and even at the southeastern Mississippi into the western part of the Florida Panhandle, that has eased now. And many of you have probably seen some of the flooding pictures because of all the rain, and of course, add the storm surge to it, and it was not pretty. And now that heavy rain starting to inch northward. You can still see there's a well-defined circulation there on the radar. Heavy rains moving up through Georgia and into much of eastern Alabama, and now we're starting to see also some rains banding up into South Carolina. At some point, Joe, this is going to probably lose its identity as a tropical system. We've got a frontal wave that's going to develop, and that'll probably absorb all of this. But we'll still be able to follow that tropical moisture along as it moves to the northeast.
Sorry, Joe, I was just taking a sip of water here.
Taking some vodka. Good for you. Come on.
Yeah, and it will. It's going to be probably by tonight, before this night is over, that tropical storm is going to be just a tropical depression. And then by the time we get to later tomorrow or Friday, probably nothing more than just a remnant low as it moves across the southeastern states. But still, up to 10 inches of rain possible for portions of Alabama, for Georgia, and even on into parts of the Carolinas between now and later in the day on Friday.
WPC with their rainfall map actually has the northern edge of a half an inch of rain just touching touching the South Jersey coast and just off the coast of Long Island, believe it or not. But by you, it's a 1/100th to up to a tenth. That's how tight the gradient is. And then, of course, just north and west of there, this huge area from New York State west and southwest into the lower and middle Mississippi Valley, Joe, and even back into the southern plains. Not a drop of rain forecast over the next 7 days. Little bit of rain coming into the Pacific Northwest down into Oregon and Northern California over the next 7 days. So that would be some welcome news. They could certainly use a lot more. But some places showing up with maybe an inch or more of rain. So let's keep our fingers crossed, and that might help out with some of the fire, the wildfire issues. Meanwhile, I want to point out that in the western Gulf of Mexico and touching the coast of Texas and back into southeastern, over towards southernmost Louisiana, there's a lot of heavy rain being generated here by WPC over the next 7 days, and it does look like something is going to try to develop there in the southwest Gulf over the next 3 or 4 days. The Hurricane Center has already raised the probability, I believe, up to 70% now of a tropical cyclone developing there. So between that and another wave that's off the African coast, either one or both of those could wind up being named storms, Joe. And we'll have Wilfred done, and then we'll move on to Alpha, the earliest, only the second time in our existence that we've even gone through the whole alphabet, and the earliest that we would have ever even earlier than 2005 to start with the Greek alphabet.
Pretty amazing. Pretty, and again, call me old-fashioned or whatever, but I'm still holding to the fact that some of these storms that we've seen so far this summer, really, because of the technology, I suppose they're able to analyze these things quicker and take note faster. But I mean, like back in the day, a storm like Kyle, for example, which suddenly appeared literally out of nowhere, the day after they gave only a 20% probability, all of a sudden, boom, here's a
But it was a
storm.
tropical storm. I mean, it met the tropical criteria.
Right.
I think Kyle would have probably been one of those systems that they would have gone back 2 or 3 years later and said, "You remember that storm back on September? In late August off the north 3 years ago. Well, we're going to make it a tropical storm now. Now, if you go through the archives, if you go through the archives at the Hurricane Center, which are available through the website, you'll see that there are a number of unnamed storms, and
Right.
when they write about it, they'll say that in post-analysis we decided that this was actually a tropical storm. The wide satellite Atlantic view still remains very busy. Paulette is off the scene here, so you really can't see it. But you certainly can see Teddy. You can certainly see Sally. It's not far enough west to see the system in the Gulf of Mexico. I'll pull up a separate loop from that in a bit. There's a strong tropical wave off the African coast. It looks like there's another big wave coming off right behind it. This area, Joe, usually we were at the 16th. Those were yesterday's circles on that map. But usually when we get toward the last week of September, this area of the Cabo Verde tropical waves, usually that area starts to shut down, and the waves, you lose the push that those waves would need to move across. So far, no signs of that happening because we're still dealing with that one that's out there already and one right behind it. So they still seem to be moving along. But sometime very soon in the next couple of weeks, we're going to start to see this area wane as far as tropical waves developing out there, and then we'll be shifting our emphasis out to the west. Have you gotten that mail yet?
They just keep coming in, don't they?
Yes, apparently they do. But yeah, here's.
I thought it was less. I thought it was less obtrusive as opposed to hearing a voice saying, "You got mail. You got mail."
All right. Well, whatever. Okay. So there's Teddy. Vicky is right up here, which is finally starting to weaken. So we'll just let me see if I can get that Gulf Coast satellite up so we can take a look at that now, and then we'll get to the models and see what's next on the hit parade. So let's go to get the Gulf of Mexico loop from the Hurricane Center. And by the way, you can see here, this is what they're saying about the one in the Gulf. Upper level conditions are forecast to become more conducive for development, and a tropical depression likely to form late this week or over the weekend. Probability of 50% over the next 48 hours and 70% in the next 5 days. And then the one off the African coast, they actually reduced this. This is the new 8 p.m. outlook. They sent it out early, Joe. They reduced this. They had 50 and 70. Now they have 40 and 60. But it's still out there. So we'll see what happens. And they mentioned that big storm that's east between the Azores and Portugal, with a 10% chance of that acquiring some tropical characteristics. Okay, let me get that Gulf shot up, and we'll open it up here. And if you look down in the southwest Gulf, you can see Sally on the upper right. You see the disturbed weather that's down on the lower left. And it's in there that we're going to probably see there's lower than normal pressures down there. And the models all seem to be reacting and trying to form something in the southwest Gulf of Mexico. So it'll be interesting to see if that does verify one of the way the upper flow is, Joe. I think that might wind up moving northeastward.
There's a fair chance indeed. And Joe, the upper level winds, as I mentioned or alluded to earlier, they'll turn into a more north or northwest direction as we move into the upcoming weekend. But then everything kind of flattens out again early next week, and so that may transport more smoke on our way during next week. And also, as you just alluded to, down over the southeastern states, the winds may actually again turn in such a manner to bring any kind of disturbance in the Gulf of Mexico on a northeast trajectory, just what they need over the southeast after what they've just gone through over the last 24 hours.
Yeah, just brought up the surface map for down there, and the Chevron oil rig now has winds under gale force for the first time in almost 3 days. In the meantime, you're seeing the land winds now really are all, they're pretty tame. You see some gusts up into the 30s, so it's really all about the rain at this point going forward. And there's just WPC's rainfall forecast. The brownish area is 6 to 10 inches in parts of interior South Carolina, and a fairly large area of 4 to 6. But the 1 to 2 only to about southern Delaware, and then out east northeast from there. So we'll deal with that. In the meantime, I just want to bring up. Let's go to Teddy. And
Teddy looks like it's going to be another going to go around with Bermuda. And this is only a week after Bermuda went through Paulette. But as you said, the folks on Bermuda are tough, and they know how to handle storms like this. Although two in only a week, that may be a little excessive even for them.
Yeah. Teddy is at 17 and a half and 50.8 west, carrying winds of 100 miles an hour. Didn't strengthen very much this afternoon, but forecast to become a major hurricane by sometime tomorrow, and then continuing northwestward. And yeah, I mean, Joe, it may make a run for Bermuda. I want to take a look at the late GFS. Now, there's been, we've alluded to the fact that we've seen models do a few odd things with this. So let's see what's happening. And of course, I've been emphasizing the fact that with so many things spinning in the tropics, and even in the non-tropics and the subtropics, this is all these systems are all having impact on each other. So I think we're still going to see some odd things on the models. Doesn't mean that the odd things are right, by the way. And maybe the European is what it's doing is an odd thing. But look at this big high. This is a very big high that's going to be over the Northeast during the weekend. This is Sunday evening, and here's Teddy. So you got a fairly strong onshore flow that's going to be setting up from southern New England on southward. So that's going to be in another round of rough surf for the mid-Atlantic states up to about southern New England. That high, Joe, I think it kind of, there's a frontal boundary that's going to be sitting across the Atlantic along 35 degrees north, and that really protects us from Teddy. The GFS is the most suppressed of the bunch. The GFS turns it and moves it well south of Nova Scotia and well south of Newfoundland. And I think we need at this point to look at the upper air to understand why. And it there's a kind of a, I guess I want to call it sort of a renegade trough. This is the shortwave trough, that upper low that's up in Labrador. This swings in all that cool air. The bottom part of that trough is going to get left behind, and you see it right here on the GFS.
Right.
Let me erase that. So right in here, there's this trough, and Teddy gets caught in that trough and then just kind of turns fairly sharply to the northeast or east northeast and passes south of Nova Scotia and Newfoundland. However, and of course, again, there's a lot here with everything spinning. You have to be careful with regards to looking at one run possibility. The European has been insisting, and it's done this for a few runs in a row, where it does the same thing, Joe, with this southern part of this trough, but it does it much sooner and much further to the west. So, your flow is southwest from North Carolina northeastward, but it's dropping that trough and actually forming an upper low off the Virginia coast, and Teddy gets caught in this and rotate and moves around the eastern edge of that upper low. Now, how it's, I don't know about this. I mean, this is really a very vigorous upper low. And then you have to ask yourself, well, what if this is further west? What if this is inland somewhere in Virginia?
Please,
Then what?
please.
Okay, but
don't
no. I understand that, but I guess I'm looking at this and thinking it seems so out of the ordinary. I can kind of understand what the GFS did, the way it handles the trough. The European is doing something here a little bit hard to swallow. Let's put it that way. And if you
Right.
follow Teddy, look, it gets caught from the upper low, and from when it goes over Bermuda, instead of going out to the northeast, it really can't, because the upper low has basically grabbed it, and it shoots it up to the northwest and takes it up to coastal Maine.
And even on the ensemble, the European ensemble does the exact same thing. It's not just the operational model that everybody normally looks at,
Yes.
but the combined total of 51 different European members coming up with this solution. I could tell you from what I'm looking at right here on my ensemble map for 100 and this is 168 hours. This goes out to 12Z Wednesday of next week, and they have the center of Teddy in the Gulf of Maine.
Isn't that
I mean,
crazy?
That's wild.
Well, the operational, it's a 958 pressure, so that would be a strong category 3 if that were to verify, and it goes in. What is that? Southeast Maine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it goes in Southeast Maine if that's the
Actually,
case.
actually, now I don't know the body of water on the ensemble. There's a body of water that that's between Eastport, Maine, and Yarmouth, Nova Scotia.
Mm-hmm.
Little narrow thing that takes that would take it right up between the two into New Brunswick.
Right.
Let's say during the late Wednesday or Wednesday night of next week, if this were to hold. So
well, if this were to verify, this would be a problem for for Nova Scotia to an extent, especially the western part of Nova Scotia,
no question.
be closer to the center. I mean, we're not proclaiming by any means that this is already written in stone and is going to happen. The European model puts its cards on the table with how it handles that upper trough. It may be wrong. It's done that a number of times over the last number of months, where it's shown things that have not come to fruition. So you want to view it with a little bit of skepticism. The other thing is the low of the Southwest Gulf develops on the European, and guess what? Let's take it where they're all going this year. If there is, and that's Louisiana. So I mean that would be crazy if we wind up having another hurricane heading into Louisiana. But again, well, the European lends an argument to this, And you can make a case on the other models, even though it's not quite as developed as the European has it. But the flow in the Gulf of Mexico, and with what's going on in the upper atmosphere, if we just put the upper air on this, on the European, and we'll back it up. Of course, there's your upper low, there's your trough, and you see where Teddy is. Again, that drops in and cuts off like an animal just off the just east of Norfolk, Virginia, and then lifts Teddy up northwestward and wraps around it. Meanwhile, you got this thing in the Southwest Gulf, and there's another upper low that forms in North Texas, and this is why if this winds up developing, anything that develops down here is going to try to go nope, that's not working. Let's see if I get the arrow to work.
See, I'm looking also now at the ensemble for the GFS, and the GFS ensemble has this thing taking a swipe, side swiping Newfoundland. That's like 10 degrees further east than what the European is indicating or suggesting. So both models, in a rough sort of way, are trying to say the same thing, that Teddy is going to curve and may have a say in the weather, perhaps in New England, perhaps in the Maritimes of Canada. They just haven't been able to nail it down yet, and more to come.
Yeah, I'm just, Joe, I just thought of pulling up the parallel GFS. And actually, if you look at the parallel GFS, it does the same thing the European does. The only difference is, and it's a big difference, is that the upper low is about 600 miles further to the east. But it does the same thing where it drops the trough, makes a cutoff low, and then lifts Teddy up northward up toward Newfoundland. But I'll get the wider view so you can see it a bit better. But yeah, again, the GFS is insisting that this next trough, which both models have, drops southeastward about 500 or 600 miles further east than the European, and that makes the big difference.
And I might point out the Canadian looks like it's somewhere in between the GFS and,
of course, it would be
the ensemble model. Again, the Canadian ensemble looks like it's somewhere between the European solution of bringing it into, let's say, New Brunswick, and the GFS solution bringing it into or near to Newfoundland. Somewhere between those two, that's where the Canadian model wants to move Teddy. So
all right. So assuming, by the way, whatever happens with those tropical systems, of course, if Teddy winds up being closer to the mainland somewhere, it might impact some of the weather downstream. But we still have another, more short waves dropping into the eastern part of the United States and off the New England coast. So that's going to at least continue this pattern that we've had where we're getting these cool highs coming down from Canada. And then, Joe, toward the end of the month, you start to get toward the end of the month. We'll see if this still is on the map tomorrow. But my God, you've got a really pretty cold look to things at the end of September, beginning of October, with a ridge and even some blocking developing up in Greenland and a deep upper low in Hudson Bay and some incredibly, a very strong cold flow out of Canada. Of course, this is 16 days from now. But the long-range models have, the long-range folks have been pointing out that on their forecast, did they not have us in below average temperatures for the end of September, beginning of October, the Climate Prediction Center? So if you look at this upper air, it kind of matches that. This is a cold look for the end of September, beginning of October. My Lord, if that winds up being correct.
You look at the temperatures at Central Park over the last 10 years, starting from right now, and what were the warmest temperatures after, let's say, the 16th of September. And I mean, check some of this stuff out. It's crazy. Last year, 93 on October the 2nd. 2017, 91 on September 24th. September 17, 2015, 89 degrees. 87 degrees on 2010 on September 25th. I mean, Joe, we've seen over the last decade, in the latter part of September and the early part of October, some pretty warm temperatures. What we're going to see in the coming days ahead is quite the opposite to what we have been experiencing over the last decade.
It's actually autumn arriving on time.
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I mentioned that. I said that this morning on my Weather in 5 video. It's we're going to experience something we haven't seen in years, and that's autumn arriving on time.
Right.
So
Right.
now, how any bets how long before people start complaining about it?
Well, people always complain.
Of
People always complain.
course,
You know,
of
I,
course.
I I saw that. I saw some of those long range maps, days ago, and that's why I, had a little discussion with my wife, and we said, if that be the case, let's close the pool now, because in other years we have not closed the pool. Well, my goodness, over the last 10 years, when it's so warm
Yeah, we
at
could
the
leave
end
it
of
open.
September, we've kept it open. But
Sure.
this year, I have a feeling that it's good that we've closed it, because I don't think we would be going in any
No,
longer anyway.
especially with the cool nights coming up now.
Oh yeah.
Unless you got a heater. The hurricane model tracking guidance, by the way, for Teddy, all of the models seem to take it on a west northwest course and keep it going west northwest after it's past Bermuda. There's a few of them that turn it to the northeast, but there are some that don't. So maybe they're seeing something down the road. I don't know. We'll have to wait another couple of days to see how that plays out. And again, here's the Hurricane Center's forecast, the official forecast. And this is the Gulf of Mexico hurricane model tracking guidance for 90L, disturbance 90L. And there's a lot of variability here, but you do have several of the models taking this in time northeastward, up from the southwest Gulf up into the central Gulf Coast again. Now we'll have to, before we get we get worried about this sort of stuff. Always remember that they got to develop first, and there's nothing that says that this is going to develop. This was the earlier, as I said, they sent this out. They sent this out early, and they lowered the system wave off the African coast probability from 50 and 70 to 40 and 60, and they raised the one in the Gulf of Mexico now to 50 and 70. So I'm coming back full screen, and
It's
gonna
too bad that the icon only goes out, at least on tropical tidbits, to 144 hours.
yeah, it goes out to 180
180.
hours on the 0 and 12, and
Right.
120 on the 6 and 18.
Well, if
Yeah,
you believe the icon, then at 100 and what is it here? 165 hours. That's Wednesday morning, 9Z. They've got it making a landfall somewhere around Nova Scotia. So it too has this idea that it's going to try to curve more to the north and maybe even northwest for a little.
you know what? Yeah, it's going to be all about it's the short bottom part of that trough, the trough that separates. Does it do it when it's over the Great Lakes so that it cuts off the New Jersey coast like the European has it, or does it wait until it gets offshore and then drops down and cuts off out in the ocean, and it does it like the GFS has where it takes it way out? Atomic Fox 3 hit super chat tonight, Joe, and we give him a big
Thank you.
Joe Chaffee, thank you for that. Scott Briller is still, by the way, the chairman is still not feeling well, and we do wish him the best. He's going to the doctor tomorrow, so we'll see what the doctor says, and hopefully it's just a bug that he picked up. He's got stomach issues.
The Jersey bug.
Yeah, so hopefully it's a stomach flu and it's not COVID. So we'll keep our fingers crossed on that. Johnny Quest says, if a new storm forms in the Gulf, would it stay weak because of the upwelling of cold water? Well, it's in the Southwest Gulf, so all the upwelling is in the Northeast Gulf between Louisiana and the Florida Panhandle. So it would depend if it tracks toward say western Louisiana or southeast Texas, just in theory, and that's just assuming it develops into something. That water's very warm. That water was upwelled. Laura was back weeks ago, so the upwelling lasts about a handful of days, and then within a week, it's back to where it was before it all started. So I would think the issue for upwelling might be there if it goes up into the northeastern Gulf, but even there, it settles down pretty quickly. So
And
that's my answer on that.
Rosendo Benitez on the chat board, and welcome Rosendo. But the European Assemble, I guess he's referring to
The
the ensemble
ensemble.
models, is showing Hurricane Teddy impacting Northeast states next week what's the deal with that? We just talked about that 5 or 10 minutes ago, Rosendo. It really does not impact New England. It may impact eastern Maine or maybe Nova Scotia or maybe New Brunswick. And what's the deal with that? Again, it all is leading back to the possibility of some kind of a closed upper low developing during next week that would kind of cause Teddy to kind of curve around it. And we'll see what happens. I mean, we're talking about something that's like more than a week away. So a lot can happen in that time frame.
James Harris worried about his New Hampshire road trip to Mount Washington. Don't worry about it. Just plan ahead, and then if something does wind up materializing, in the long shot chance that it does, because I look at this stuff right now. How many times do you get hurricanes going into Maine? Not very often.
But it's
So,
2020.
but it's 2020, so we
Yeah.
have to bear that in mind. I'm telling you, Joe, I'm still waiting for the earthquake that's going to cause a new volcano to emerge and just start
You keep you keep
spewing
saying
lava
that.
everywhere.
You keep saying that, and it's going to happen. And probably it'll happen on November 3rd.
No, I understand. So look, let's cut it short tonight because I was exhausted last night. I'm actually kind of tired today. So let's call an end to tonight's Joe and Joe Weather Show. Thanks everybody for being here. As always, Joe and I really appreciate it. Atomic Fox 3, thank you for hitting Super Chat tonight. The chairman, get better. Hopefully the doctor has a good prognosis for you tomorrow. Otherwise, stay in bed, drink some soup, and watch some nasty television.
Yeah.
All right. So
We'll see you tomorrow, Joe.
we'll see you tomorrow. All right, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care.